Hi, this is Ed Rising, and welcome back to Ed's Hop-O-Matic podcast, a retro pop culture podcast where everything retro beats a new when you keep it in your heart. Tonight we have quite a group with us, and we may have more people joining us. We're going to be celebrating the 80th birthday, which is coming up this weekend, for Micky Dolenz.
Hey,
And so tonight we have quite a few people joining us. We have Fred Velez,
Hi, everybody.
we have Mark Arnold,
hello.
and the ladies will be last, when normally they are first. We have a new person to join our podcast. Her name is Annie Maynard.
Thanks for
Annie,
having me.
welcome.
Thank you for having me.
And we have the backbone of this whole operation, Gail Bajkowski.
Yay.
Okay, so what we'd like to do is tonight discuss. Here comes Daniel. Daniel's on his way in. Let's get him before we get started. Yeah, so we have quite a crowd for you tonight, folks. Uh,
Hey, there he is.
there's Daniel Coston.
Yay.
How are you, sir?
Very good. Good to see you guys.
Good.
Welcome. Happy birthday, Mickey.
Happy birthday, Mickey. Daniel, I'd like to introduce you to Annie Maynard. She's joining us tonight, first time to this podcast. And well, we're very lucky, Annie, because a lot of us do these shows together. And we have a kind of a nice group of people that come in and out. Not everybody's in every show, but we have quite a bit. Annie, could you just give us a little breakdown as to where you come from, what kind of stuff you're into, and
Sure.
sites that you visit and things like that?
Yeah, I've been a Monkees fan since I was little, but got mostly, more than ever into them in 2021. And I started running a page called Micky Dolenz Archive on number of platforms, including Facebook, where it's gotten almost 14,000 followers in less than a year, which is very
That's
exciting.
amazing.
Yeah. So I do try to focus, on not just Monkees, try to get more of his career out there because there's a lot of people that don't know what he's been up to and
Yeah.
just don't seek it out. So I'm just a big Monkees fan. I've met Mickey a few times. I worked at his merch table at Fest for Beatles fans where I met Gail in person. And
Wow.
yeah, so very
I'm
thrilled
sure
to be
that was
here.
the highlight of the weekend, right?
Yeah. It was
Hey,
exciting though, because you were like, "Are you Annie?" I was like, "Yeah," and you're like,
It-
"I
it
know
is-
you." So that's
Yeah, it is fun
what
to meet
happens.
people, in real life. So yeah.
it is. And Annie, if you don't mind me asking, you appear to be rather younger than maybe most of the rest of us here. So, when did you begin to get into music?
My dad raised me on the Monkees. I'm 22. And like I said, I just kind of got mostly into them when I was about 19. I started like really, really listening to more of the music, watching more of the show, reading about them as people, and just yeah. So
But
I
what
would say,
appealed to you? Something that's got to be 50 some odd years ago when you started listening to them, and how are they relevant to you today?
I think I've always had a preference for older things, older music, older shows. That was just kind of what I grew up on mostly because of my parents, mostly my dad.
Big
Um,
influence.
yeah, and
Cool.
it resonated with me that kind of music. The shows seemed more wholesome and more fun, and the music, I think the music stands test of time.
Yeah, that's wonderful, Annie. And we've been talking at the you mentioned the Fest for Beatles fans,
Hmm.
and all of us are Beatles fans as well.
Yeah,
And
me
so
too.
we've talked quite a bit over there about the younger generations and the continued younger generations that fall in love with the Beatles, and the
Hmm.
Monkees are born out of the Beatles and things of that nature. So it's very interesting and wonderfully refreshing to see the Monkees being embraced by the younger generation. And so thank you, Annie, for that bit. Let's kind of get started here, talking about Micky Dolenz and his career, going back from his early days with Circus Boy, which was his first television series, from 56 to 58. He played a boy in a family that ran a circus. He had his big scenes, I think, with an elephant.
Bimbo the elephant.
Fred, are you familiar with the Circus Boy?
I never saw the series back in the day, but I have seen tapes and later on reruns that used to be shown, I think, on uh, TV Land or Antenna TV or something like that.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it's really fascinating to see Mickey at that young age. He's about 10 years old, I think.
And he's blonde.
And he's blonde. His hair is blonde. And there's actually an episode where he sings, you know.
Yeah.
So so it was interesting to see him at that stage of his career in life, and that he was using the uh, the stage name of Mickey Braddock, so he
Mickey
wouldn't
Braddock, right.
he wouldn't I guess be seen as riding on the coattails of his father, George Dolenz, who was a popular actor at the time,
Right.
you know. And his parents were very good regarding his career, in that they kept him solid, they kept him grounded in so that he wasn't thinking that he was a star or anything like that. That they treat him, they wanted him to have a normal childhood, and that's what
Yeah.
happened after the series ended. Then he went to school and was just like a normal kid again for a couple of years, and then when he was looking to about going to college, he went back into acting as a way to pay for things as he worked his way towards college. And it was about that period that the monkey auditions came up.
Right.
So
Now his parents, he's made reference in concerts over the years that his mother was an opera singer. Is that a fact, or is that just something he's kind of made up over the years?
I believe that's true, that she was a singer or she was in theater. His father was a popular character actor. He was in the Count of Monte Cristo, and Cristo, or whatever you say.
Crisco.
Crisco,
Crisco
yes.
oil.
Hey.
But I was aware of him from the movie Scared Stiff that starred Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis.
Yeah.
I said, "Oh, that's Mickey's father right there," you know. So it was just interesting to see that aspect of his life like that. So and if you've seen the recent videos he did for the REM CD, where he did, what is it, Shiny Happy People, they used actual home movie footage of Mickey when he was that young, and
Oh, how about that?
as he
I'll
get
have to look
older.
for
So if
that.
you look up Mickey's version of Shiny Happy People, the video, and you'll see it. It's a great video.
Because Mickey just keeps going. So let's move on a little bit. Hi, Mark. Mark Arnold, how are you?
I'm good.
Good. I'm glad that you were able to join us. Could you talk to us a little bit about the early Monkeys period? As you're familiar with it?
Well, what I do know is, and Mickey has said this in interviews, he says, I didn't have to audition. So he was one that didn't have to go to the, casting call, cattle call, or whatever you want to call it for the Monkeys show. Sounds like Davey was probably a shoe-in as well. So it was really the other two that really had to go through the motions on that. But um I think once Mickey decided, hey, I want to return to acting, I'm sure his agent or whatever and everyone else is scouting around for a proper role for him of his young age that would appeal to teenagers as opposed to children. And fortunately, he was one of a few child stars that actually made it big as an adult too. So that was good.
Yeah.
Um, what I've read and listened to over the years in researching my books is that, he wasn't necessarily destined to be the lead singer on so many hits. He wasn't necessarily destined to be the drummer. It just kind of all fell into place, over the course of the years, and things like that. But yeah, um, go ahead.
Okay.
I think
Gail, can I ask you, would you be familiar with how it was developed that he was determined to become the lead singer or the drummer? Is that something?
The story he tells is that everybody else took a step back and he
Yeah, that's
wants
pretty
to be
much
the
it.
drummer and
pretty
everybody,
much.
not me.
Yeah.
That's a good question, and there's some discussion about that, because he did end up singing so much. I think Don Kirshner said he had the most commercially viable voice, or the most rock and roll voice out of the four of them.
Yeah.
Mickey, I think, is a quick study and willing to do whatever he was asked to do, willing to give it a shot. So they said, hey, can you try playing the drums? I'm guessing he said, sure. And he, was bright enough and industrious enough to practice and pick it up, or at least mime it, and make it look
The
good.
thing about Mickey that I'm most fascinated with is that, and we're talking about Hollywood, right? We're talking about a Hollywood kid, essentially. He's really the most affable person from what we've read about the Monkees over the years. Easy to work with. He gets along with everybody.
Mhm.
He takes the job as this is an acting job. Whether I'm playing drums and singing, I'm doing an acting job. And with I think a little bit less drama than maybe some of the other Monkees
Yeah. Well,
put into that.
I'll say this, he was the one when it was time to give Kirshner the boot. He was the one that was the least resistant. He didn't care so much as Nesmith and Torque did. He was just like, okay, whatever. Because of that very reason, he felt he was playing the part of a rock musician, rock singer.
Yeah.
Not an actual one like Nesmith or Torque might have thought.
Right. Well, yeah, Davy and Mickey were the two most professional actors, because Davy had acted a lot in England, and we remember that he was the original Artful Dodger in the Broadway musical of Oliver.
Oliver.
So they took the job as, they looked at it as actors, and so when Nesmith and Torque, they saw that Nesmith and Torque were very serious about the music, that they sided with them, out of, I guess, necessity. They wanted to keep the job going, you know. But it worked out on an artistic level good for all of them, I think.
Yeah. Now,
It
Daniel,
also-
you worked with a lot of musicians over the years,
Mhm.
whether it being producing or working as a photographer. My audience should know by now, Daniel Coston has been producing works for what I would like to call retro artists.
Mhm.
The Circle. He has a new one from a group called the Beckies, and we'll go into that a little bit later. We'll go through all those credits. But in working with musicians, one of the things that is interesting about the monkey dynamic, particularly with the recording, is how they were able to accept being actors, playing roles in a TV show of a band, and yet actually doing the performing of that band and having to be so personal because their names were attached to all those characters. Would
Yeah.
you have any relationships, similar type of uh, associations with people that may have had similar problems as far as how their music was being portrayed?
I think there were a few groups of that, excuse me, that era that had that issue. And the biggest thing with the Monkees wasn't that they couldn't play, it was time. They were on the set 12, 14 hours a day, and then having them record at night. So there really was no way for them to record much in the way that moms and papas or the association So a few other groups weren't always on their records because they were on the road. They were just, they weren't in the studio. They were on the road, and the producers were making these decisions. I think the Monkees, between the stratospheric success that happened so quickly and the logistics of trying to get a show out, I think they found a working relationship, and that's what you hear in the first two albums. And then the Monkees said, no, wait, we want to make an album. I mean, Peter and Mike especially were pushing for that, but they all realized together, we should make an album. The kids are seeing us on the album covers. We should make an album. And as soon as they made that album, Headquarters, they started slowly reverting back to the working with outside musicians, partially because they were on the road and making a TV show. So I think they got stick because they're on TV every Thursday night playing these songs, and some of these songs they sang them, but they didn't always play the backing. But at the same time, they were the Monkees. There's really only four people that were the Monkees, and that's
they really were
Davey, Mike, and Peter. And and as speaking as someone who shot their tours for 9 years, it was every night was a joy. But you saw them on stage together in any configuration. Those four guys, were the Monkees.
Yeah, slight correction, Mike. Dan, excuse me. They were on Monday nights.
Oh, on Monday nights. I thought they were on Thursdays. Okay.
Oh, it was Monday. Thursdays maybe later when they went to syndication and all that with the reruns.
They're at 7:30, right? 7:30 p.m.
7:30 Eastern Standard Time.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
It was Saturday for me when I first saw them.
I remember seeing them during the original run.
You're old, that's why. Fred.
Yeah, old Fred.
They called me old Fred. They mean it.
I came in during the MTV wave in '86, and I was the right age, and it was the right time of my life to oh my God, what is this? And much as I loved the show, I loved the songs more. And that's it. Those records, as she said, those songs will stand the test of time. That's why we're here. That's why we're still here talking about Micky and this music, because the songs are just so darn good.
Right.
Gail, when did you first get into the Monkees?
Good question. I'm old enough that I was a very young toddler during the original run of the show, and I have two older brothers, so I have some recollection of being about 4 years old, probably in 1968, and catching an episode or two on a Monday night. And the one thing that I remember to this day, it struck me at the time, even though as young as I was that pre-credit sequence when Micky performs Going Down. It was before one of the second season episodes. I forget if it's Wild Monkeys or Monkeys in Texas. But I remember I was so struck by that because, I knew what the show was, and it comes on, and that was so different, and it was so psychedelic.
Psychedelic.
Yeah, it was my 4-year-old mind was blown. So, and that song, to this day, that's one of my favorite performances, one of my favorite songs. But my family loved that song. My brothers loved it. My dad and my uncle loved it, and they were way too old to be Monkees fans. So it's always been a thing in our family. But my fandom really took off in the mid-'70s when the show went into syndication. And that's that was kind of in a lot of ways, the hardest time to be a fan, because there just wasn't a lot going on. The records were all out of print. You really had to hunt them down and use record stores and thrift stores, and you could pay a fortune from a dealer to get a copy of Head or any of the rarer albums. But it was a lot of fun. I really liked it, and I stuck with it probably for the next for about 10 years after that. But that was also when the guys Micky was off in England. He was doing other stuff. He really wasn't performing here in the States. He did a little bit of recording, but not much. Davey had done, I think, was still doing some performing. Peter had started to tour again. And Nez, of course, had his own stuff going on with Pacific Arts and his other projects, television parts and whatnot. But it was accessibility, I think, at that point, at least for me, being a young teenager, it was a little tough.
Yeah, I can relate to that.
But it was great.
But the same with the Partridge Family, I mean, you could trying to find the records and so forth. It was hard to find them after a couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
But with the Monkees, at least they were on TV, I think, in reruns, so they did have that accessibility. But it is difficult once they're out of the limelight. And the Monkees did have a tremendous career. You know, those first 2 years, they were dynamite, hotter than anything that's come down the line since the Beatles. And then they made the movie, and then they got canceled, and they continued to try to make some music, and whether it was under uh, the three of them, Michael Nesmith, Peter, and Michael and Micky and Davey for a while, and then just the two of them, Michael, Micky, and Davey for a while. But it was difficult for them to keep it going, I guess. And I don't know, and I wasn't like Mark watching them on Saturday mornings though, but at least I knew that they were on there. But and that's good because then, you know, that generation gets to know the Monkees, and of course the MTV, when MTV came around and started showing them in the '80s, the next generation got wind of the Monkees, and my God, that took things off tremendously.
That was a fun time. It's like, when you were watching Saturday mornings as a kid, you'd run home and watch the Monkey Weekend on MTV, and man, you just got all immersed in it. A couple of things. The Monkees, had such a white hot streak. It's almost impossible to keep up, even though, and they did try. I think Andrew Sandoval's pointed out to me that they were as much on the TV in 1969 as they were in previous years, except they just didn't have the TV series. They were doing Kool-Aid ads, they were doing tons of TV spots, still trying to get their music out there. So they ran that, and it was the '60s. A lot was happening in the '60s, so they did as much as they could.
And that's the interesting thing about music, as we were talking about the image issue and being a TV band or an actual band and putting that music forth and having that identification. That's the way that music was going was so fast in the '60s that you could be hot for a week, and then a month and a half later, nobody remembers you. And while at the same time, a lot of that music has incredible staying power, but it had there's so much was happening so fast, particularly in the middle to later '60s. And to the Monkees' credit, they were able to update their sound and try new things and becoming a little bit more psychojello or whatever you want to call it.
As Micky would say. Yes.
They did.
Think about the changes that from that first episode, Monkey, was it Royal Flush, to the last episodes. I mean, '60s, that fall '66 to spring '68. What a huge change in music. And they rode that wave. In some ways, they were right there, if not leading it, through their interest in the Moog synthesizer, what Mike was doing with his country rock. I mean, they were on the comet. They were, they had their both hands on the wheel for that. Yeah.
Man, can I go back to Annie for a minute? Gail had mentioned that she had seen the Going Down video and the psychedelic aspect of that, and blew her 4-year-old mind. And we have to talk about that in greater detail at some point in time. But Annie, you had the opportunity of seeing virtually everything at you for the entire series. You could binge them essentially. Is that more or less how you did it? What was your impression from the more innocent early season as opposed to the second season?
So my dad preferred the first season to the second season. So when I was watching it when I was really little, I almost always watched the first season, just like all the time, pick whatever episodes I want. We had the DVDs. And I think it was when I was older, probably, around, I think 19, when I got back into the Monkees, that I finally watched the second season. And I actually really like the second season. I feel like there's positives and negatives, I suppose you could say, to both. I feel like they were a little bit more who they were. They were expressing themselves more, breaking out of the characters more, experimenting more in the second season. But the formulaic version of the first season, I love what they did. It was more of a standard sitcom in a way than less experimental, but more innocent, as you said. There wasn't, pot plants from space in the first season. But I love it. I love seeing that change. It's fascinating how quickly it happened, but it gives you perspective of how fast things were changing in the 60s.
Very cool. Very cool.
Can I make a point regarding differences? We talked about the Partridge Family earlier, and I just want to point out some differences. The Partridge Family, from the first episode to the last, was a family sitcom in which you had the mother, you had the kids, you had the manager who sort of was the pseudo father figure, and the first season had them as a band, and then the later seasons had them as a family who happened to be a band, and and the Monkees was a totally different thing. It was four young men who would be considered, younger generation, teenage age, especially Davy, and they were on their own. It was like them against the adult world.
Yeah.
And I think originally they were trying to do a sort of family thing with the Monkees. When you see the pilot, they had the manager character of Rudy was supposed to be the father figure that was in that, but then Bob Rafelson and Bert Schneider, the creators, so no, that won't work. The kids watching this are not going to identify with that. They want to see the kids, the four guys, as individuals, doing their own thing, and that's exactly what they aimed for in the series. So you always had sort of the Monkees against the adult world.
And I think that's definitely one of the things I love about it was all these young guys living together on the beach, and their various different adventures and.
Right, that's what made it such a revolutionary show. For the first time, you had the kids leading their own destiny, without an adult supervisor in there. I mean, the closest you got to that was the Monkey Mother episode with Rosemary Reed. It shows you what would have happened if the Monkees had a parent figure involved. So it gave you an idea what would have happened if they had gone along those lines.
Mrs. Nesmith might have been a good addition to that.
I think it's Mickey who said that, like, up until the Monkees TV series, if you saw kids with long hair on TV, they were getting arrested, or they were protesting the war. So the fact that they were who they were and allowed to be who they were on a primetime series, it was a game changer on a whole other aspect for the culture that was changing quickly.
Yeah, they tried to clamp them down various times. It didn't really work with the landlord, even with the puppet Mr. Schneider, and even Rosemary. But it just didn't work. It's like, and just to play catch up on a few things, that's the as far as the music progressing. That's the reason why Michael and I did our first Monkees book, the songs chronologically from recording, because we saw that there is a big change and progression over the 4 years that they're most active, from 66 to 69. And we wanted to show that. The TV show did the same thing. That's why the second season is a little more wacko than the first, straight-laced formal series. But I prefer the second season. I know we did one of these shows. I don't think it was yours. It might have been a different podcast where everybody was talking about their favorite Monkees episodes, and everybody was older than me and all picked first season episodes. I was the only one that picked a second season as my favorite episode. So
Mark,
anyway,
could you show that book again?
Sure. It is called long title, Looking for the Good Times, Examining the Monkey Songs One by One. This is the second edition because it has the Christmas party album added to it.
Oh, right. And this is written with yourself,
Michael
and
Ventrella.
Very good.
Yes.
Okay, cool. We'll get through promoting all this other stuff at the end, towards the end of the podcast. But I wanted to make sure, since we were talking about that we got that into the
plug.
podcast there. All right. Just wanted to just make one thing regarding influences where the monkeys came from in my life. The monkeys are over here. No. No.
They're
My
gone.
sister, they're gone. My sister Nancy is a great influence in my life. Oh, look who's coming.
We have a special
Oh, we
guest.
have a special guest coming in. Oh, it's
Plastic
fantastic.
EP.
Oh no.
Hey!
Oh, now it's a party.
Is he even up? He's always up.
He's here. He's on his way. Anyway, whatever. So my sister Nancy, was a couple of years older than me, and so she was a big Beatles fan and a Monkees fan, and I kind of listened to whatever music she was
Hey, there he
listening to.
is.
There's Plastic EP.
Yay!
He's here.
The man,
Hey,
the
I gotta
legend.
say something, all right? You'll love
Yeah.
this, all right? Your podcasts are like camping out. Bring your blanket and your sleeping bag by the time you get on, the night's over. Anyway, that's a mural that my son did. You see that?
Wow.
Whoa,
Nice.
cool.
Yeah.
See that? Anyway, I just want to say I love coming on your podcasts because they're great. I think the last one we did, you cancelled. I wasn't able to get on, but this one at least we got through finally.
Where
How
are
are
you
you?
right now? Where are you right now?
Hey, I'm outside my favourite cafe here in Canterbury in Melbourne, Victoria. There's a McCartney mural too. My son did have a look since I'm giving you a tour.
Oh, very
See that?
cool.
Wow.
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
wow.
Very
Oh,
nice.
wow. Very
Nice.
cool.
You see that as well?
Yes, I can.
Yeah.
Hey, and while I was waiting to come on, I listened to Frampton Comes Alive about 40 times.
Very
right.
cool. Very cool.
Hey,
So let me just finish
Can
up what
I
I was
say
going to say
something
about my
about
sister.
Micky Dolenz?
Go ahead.
All right. Since we're celebrating Micky Dolenz's birthday, right? It hasn't happened yet, has it?
I think it's
Saturday.
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 What's his date? Saturday?
Yes.
Saturday.
Okay, I just want to say, Micky Dolenz, being a member of the Monkees, being a total entertainer, being part of pop culture, I'm going to remember Micky Dolenz in my mind, right, when he was wearing the red shirt, running with the Monkees, playing the drums, and in his white shirt singing I'm a Believer. For me, he's always etched in my mind. I even went to go and do drum lessons when the show was shown here in July 1967. I said to my dad, I want to play the drums, Dad. And he goes, why? I said, I want to play and sing like Micky Dolenz. So I found a Hungarian guy to give me drum lessons. He took me there. And every time I went there to do drums, this guy said to me, do you want to taste the goulash? I said, no, I've come for drum lessons. And every time I went, do you want to taste the goulash? At the end, I gave up on drums because of that.
Very funny.
Yeah, but it's a true story.
Cool.
Plastic sent me a video. I'm going to play for you right now. And for those of you in my audience should know that most all of us are all here because of Plastic EP.
Yay.
Right? I mean, the first videos for podcasts that I watched, or video casts that I watched, were Plastic EPs, podcasts on the Monkees and the Beatles. And so he got us started. He got me started anyway. And I just want to play a little something that that he sent me. If I do this right, hold on, please. I'm going to share screen, and this here, and blow your minds.
Psychedelic.
Psychedelic.
Hey, Ed, do you know how to run a podcast?
Hey, I know somebody who could host a better one.
Did I
I
not
just
share
want to
that?
say,
Did I not
I just
share
want
that?
to say, when he gets that going, here it
Oh, there he
comes.
got it.
Hold on, you do it again.
There it is.
Do it again.
Yes.
Okay.
Can't hear it.
All right, just want to say that was my 1967 original Hollywood personality poster that I bought when I was between the ages of 8 and 9. I bought 2 of them. One I took to junior school, that we call it state school here, and I cut out a silhouette of the monkeys within the poster, and that got destroyed. Then I kept the other one all the way through. It took me 52 years to get it signed by all 4 monkeys on that. I had to laminate that poster because it was falling apart, but I laminated it and it held together. I was lucky enough to get Davey to sign it first here in Melbourne at an event he was doing here at the Malvern Town Hall. Then I was lucky enough to get Peter and Micky to sign it. Then I was lucky enough to get Mike Nesmith to be the last one to sign when he came here to Melbourne across his arm. And I'm just saying, if there's a fire at my house, I told my wife, get out of the way. I'm going to get my poster first. And if I see you on the way out, I'll grab you.
Oh, that's great. That's great. All right, let's kind of move on a little bit. We want to talk a little bit about the Monkees reunions. Well, Micky was doing some directing work around that time, right? Does anybody, Fred, are you familiar with his directing career and things like that he was doing in the late 70s, 80s?
Right. Towards the end of the 70s, he decided he wanted to do something different. So he went to England and became a director over there for television. He had a show called Metal Mickey, which involved a robot. Oh, there it is, right there.
There you go.
He also helped in directing a theatrical version of Bugsy Malone in England as well.
Yeah.
And so when he was approached by David Fishoff through Peter Tork about reuniting for a Monkees 20th anniversary tour, he was kind of reluctant at first because he hadn't done music in a while, and he felt, well, maybe I'll do it. It'll give me an excuse to bring my girls, my young daughters, to America for a nice family holiday and all that. And then it just got, because MTV was showing the Monkey reruns, it was suddenly, the Monkey Mania exploded all over again, and the tour became bigger and bigger. Originally, Mike was going to be involved because it was only going to be a few dates. And then because of the demand, there were more bookings and everything. And Mike said, I can't do this because I'm with Pacific Arts and I'm a businessman. I can't put everything else aside just to do this tour. But
I never knew that. I never knew that he was committed initially for what was supposed to be like a 25 city tour or something like, or 20 dates or whatever it was.
6 weeks or something, yeah.
Yeah. And then after that, he had to bow out. And
he had to bow out, but he did come. He did
one show. Yeah.
He did join them for the show at the Greek Theater to commemorate the 20th anniversary of the Monkees there. And he also appeared at the taping of the Monkees Christmas melody that was for MTV.
Yes,
and I was at that taping. And I got the pictures to prove it.
I have one story about when the Monkees MTV show was being done, when they were being broadcast on the MTV Marathon. I was new to VHS at the time. You know, I had just gotten the VHS. I didn't have cable. And so I had gotten a bunch of tapes to give them to my boss. I said, you've got to tape the Monkees. And he's looking at me like I got 3 heads. Do you want me to tape the Monkees? You know? But he did a few things for me over the years like that. But it was great to see the Monkees have a resurgence in the 80s, to have a hit record, but that was then and this is now. The follow-up album, Pull It, was not bad. It has its highlights. And but I'd like to talk a little bit about Micky's voice. And Gail, I'm going to come back to you on that. He's got probably the most prolific voice, one of the most prolific voices in rock and roll history. And he still has it, and it's incredible. Gail, could you share us a little bit about his songs and things like that?
A little bit, sure. I know when Micky's been asked, he'll attribute it to luck. He's got, was born with good pipes and a good ear. But of course there's a lot of effort, a lot of hard work, no doubt, that went into that over the years. I think that his 80s voice actually sounded great. And,
Yeah.
was a little bit surprising. He was, a middle-aged man, who hadn't done a lot of singing in the previous years, in the late 70s and early 80s when he was in England. So, and maybe that's why, maybe his voice needed the rest, maybe it matured a little bit. But I think, I'm not the biggest fan of Poulet, but there, as you said, there's some gems on there, but I really think vocally he sounds fine during that time. He really sounds good.
And then the Monkees did a 30th reunion. They put out the Justice album. Daniel, are you familiar with the Justice album, and do you have any thoughts on that?
I am. It's and it was amazing to see them. Unfortunately, they did reunite. They did an English tour of England, but Mike left the band before they came back to the U.S. I think one level of Justice was great because you heard them all back together in the studio. Part of the problem was that they wanted to make a very 90s record. Andrew Sandoval has said that they actually wanted the Screaming Trees drum sound. They actually even got the Screaming Trees drum kit to have that 90s rock sound, and that's hard for. And speaking as somebody is who's produced some older acts, it's hard to find a balance for artists who want to do their new stuff, but also that has to complement the work they've done before and vice versa. So I'm glad they make that record. I'm glad they all got together in the studio again. I think if they hadn't done that, they would have kicked themselves the rest of their lives. But I think in some ways, Justice was kind of like this moment. Okay, we did that, move on. And in a weird way, it took 15 years, but it did set up the remarkable reunion or the rebirth of the Monkees through the touring that kind of commenced again in 2011.
Cool. Annie, are you familiar with any of the more recent recordings that Micky has done as a solo artist?
Yeah, he's got, I'm wearing the Dolenz Sings Nesmith shirt.
Oh, very cool.
Love that album. I think he did an amazing job. I think Christian Nesmith did an amazing job with reimagining those songs, and so much of the instrumentation was Christian. And I think when those two work together, something beautiful comes out of it. Because I think even, his REM EP, that when I first found that, because the cover leaked a little bit before it was announced, I thought it was a joke. It seemed so out there. But then when he actually did it, when I heard it, I was like, this is amazing. I get this. And I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. I think those two work together really well. I think Micky's voice, like Gail said, has really held up. I read an interview he did in, I think, 2017, where he talked about having all those years off and not being in clubs, like these smoke-filled clubs for years, and really belting it out during that time. He kind of preserved his voice, and he said he sounds like maybe a decade younger than most of his peers, and I think he's spot on with that, maybe even younger at times. But he's held up his voice so well. He had training when he went into Broadway that really helped him learn how to properly sing, how to breathe like an actual singer's supposed to. And I think that really made a difference. And he's still releasing fantastic material when he's like 80 years old almost.
Amazing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mark, what about his work on Broadway? Are you familiar with any of that?
Well, I have the Live on Broadway album. I have all his solo albums. The one thing I like about Micky's, I'll just kind of talk about his solo albums, is he tried different things instead of just doing typical Monkees covers. He did the Carole King tribute. He did tributes to Harry Nilsson and of course Michael Nesmith, and you know and sometimes he'd sing songs that were just personal favorites rather than trying to be a pop Monkees person. But he always returned to his roots, and he would sing, I'm a believer, and Clarksville and everything else. But it's like I always liked it that Mickey always tried to expand, and I wanted to make special mention my favorite Monkees album, just because I'm in the audience, and this is in my book. Oops, wrong side. Is the that one, Out of Nowhere, the live album, because he came to Oregon and he was going to be performing with an orchestra, and it was just a different type of experience. I wish they put out the entire concert, but hey, half the concert is good.
There you go.
But I always admired that about Mickey, is he's always been willing to try new things, but also he doesn't ignore his past either.
Yeah.
So he'll pay tribute to that and continue to do it, and also give us some new stuff that he likes.
That's a really good point, Mark. Yeah, I think that's one of the things that I like about his career, is that, like you said, he still pays tribute to the past. He's been trotting out Clarksville and the Believers for a lot of years now. He still sings them with the same showmanship, the same enthusiasm. He never breaks bad on that stuff. He always talks about how grateful he was for the experience, and what, tremendous songwriters they had working, with them at the time. And I have a lot of respect for the respect that he has for what he's been through.
Yeah.
And he's found a way
Can
to
I
make
just say something about Mickey Short?
Plastic, I wanted to get to you about Australia. When he and Mickey were in Australia a couple of years ago, did you get to see that tour?
Yeah, I got to see them. First he came out with Peter, and then he came out with Mike.
Cool.
Very
So
good.
what happens is, I just want to say what's happening here in Australia. The Monkees TV show was in July 1967, right? We're behind the US. It was in September 66 in the States. But we didn't get the black and white TV because we only had black and white TV, right? And I can tell you, when that first album came out, right, the Monkees, my favourite track was Tomorrow's Gonna Be Another Day. Right, and the hard part was I never had a record player. So I had to carry this big record, as bigger than my head, right? Because I was only 8, 9 years old, going around to parties and beg people to play the album, right? It's true. And I had little hands, right, in this little head. And I got this big album in front of my face, and I say, would you play my album? And they look at me like, but we're playing the Beatles here. We're freaking out, Sgt. Pepper and all that stuff. And it was like when you went to school, it's true, we had fights between the older kids that were Monkees fans, and the Beatle fans. They were the older kids, and we were the younger kids. We'll go Monkees, and they look at us like, that's crap. And you don't want to say anything. And there was fights in the yard over music, and it pissed me right off, right? But I just want to say, Charles Rosenay's favourite song from the Monkees' first album is Let's Dance On. And I want to say a big hello to Charles, because you always bring that up. And on the second album, right, I just want to say, The Kind of Girl I Could Love is my favourite song of all time. It just became like that. And I want to say, with the Monkees here in Australia, you went out and you bought every single single that they put out, right? And then what happens is, everything was going great, until D.W. Washburn came out, and you bought that and go, what is this? No, this is true. What is this crap? Because they're singing about a down and outer. They're not singing their monkey sound, and you don't know what it is, right? And it was like the Monkees lost their teenage fan base from that minute on. And then they thought about it. So then they go back into the hits, and they revive the other song that was recorded in 1966, right? The one that they did in the Glenn Campbell hour, the three of them. What was it again?
Oh, my, was it?
No, the other one.
Teardrop City.
Teardrop
Yeah,
City.
Teardrop City. So it was
right.
like, oh, gee, we lost all our fans all over the world, but let's dig out 1966 Teardrop City. You need to hear it, and you go, yeah, they got them. Yeah, they got the right song now, but they lost their fans. That's true. And the other thing I didn't like, right? When I turned 9 years old, I got the Monkees' greatest hits. Now, you've seen that album. It's all black, and it's psychedelic. Came out in 69 with the pink or the orange and the black, and they never had a picture of the Monkees. And from then, I had a complex. Where's the picture of the Monkees? And it's only like about 7 years back that I spoke to Nico Collis, right? And I found the album that came out from New York with a picture of the 4 Monkees on, but they pulled the plug on it because Peter Tork had left the band and they didn't want to pay royalties. So this album left from New York,
It's
got
all
as
about
far as
money.
New Zealand. Wait a minute. Got as far as New Zealand. And I had a complex from the time that album came out looking for the picture of the monkeys. And then the monkeys disappeared off the face of the earth. It's true. We didn't even know that Peter left the band and it was the end of the monkeys.
You're funny, Plastic. You're funny. Okay.
Yeah, but I'm telling the truth. That's the difference.
I know you are. These are the stories you want to hear. This is your time and your experience with them.
Hey,
at
you can't
that
make
time.
this stuff up. You can't make this
No,
stuff
man.
up. And I'll tell you something. When I lived in East Hawthorne, there's a road called Taronga Road, and I went to Auburn South State School. Now, what happens is, when I used to walk to school, there was a combi van, a Volkswagen, that had a giant Monkeys logo on the side because they were selling the Sutex Monkeys stockings, right? And every time it went past, I go, look at that, the Monkeys, right? This van. And then I realized that he's selling hole-proof women's stockings that were licensed by the Monkeys. And no one even remembers that, but I do. And listen, another thing, right? When Davy Jones came here, I'm not lying, and he was at the Melbourne Town Hall, I saw him. And when I first saw him, no joke, he was shorter than I thought he was. And I wanted to go up to him and I go, you look bigger on TV, right? And I thought he'd take the joke, right? But I thought, better shut my mouth and say nothing, all right?
You say, I am standing up.
I am standing up. Very good. Okay, so what I'd like to do now is talk about Micky touring, if you have any particular stories about seeing him in concert. If there's any particular Monkey songs or solo songs that you want to bring attention to, something that you really love, I'm going to ask you guys to do that. While we get started, we're going to ask Fred to kick this off. Okay, I want to just share with you a picture of when I got to see Micky a couple of years ago. He performed out here in Long Island, and I got a shot to get a picture with him.
Oh, nice.
And now that I've gotten this technology down now, I'm going to show it off. But it was quite a moment. It was one of those VIP things where you can go in before the show and he does a little hi hello with you, and I just kind of followed the crowd in. I didn't pay for it or anything like that. I didn't even know where I was going. They just said, "Are you with the group?" I said, "Yeah, sure. What the hell? I'm with the group."
Got a lot of photo gigs that way. Yep.
So I got a chance to shake his hand and chat with him a little bit, and he couldn't have been more of a gentleman, and it was really nice. So Fred, could I ask you to kick it off and talk to us a little bit about any favorite Monkey songs, any particular favorite touring moments, kind of things like that?
Well, my two favorite Monkey songs that Micky Dolenz sings lead on is Randy Scout's Git. It's a song that, his first song that he wrote for the Monkees, and it was a big hit as a single in England. It was like a top 5. I think it was like number 2, and some charts it was number 1. And it's the only Monkey song to have hit the top 5 that was written by one of the Monkees. So that's a great achievement for him. And the second one that's my favorite is Shorty Blackwell from the Instant Replay album, because I like how it is. It's very orchestrated. It's a little weird, but that's okay. And I just like the way it was put together. And I thought when Micky did the orchestral concerts that it was a missed opportunity that he didn't include Shorty Blackwell as part of the set list. It would have been, I thought it would have been that was the perfect opportunity, and he didn't do it. I hope if Micky does another show with an orchestra that he will at least consider, Micky, if you're listening to this, consider doing Shorty Blackwell with an orchestra. Please.
When I saw him, when I'm not sure exactly what podcast it was I was listening to, but they were talking about Shorty Blackwell. So I had not heard it in years, but I figured, you know what? Let me give this one another shot.
Give it another shot.
It actually is a really interesting track,
Yeah. And I just recently got Micky live at the Troubadour.
Yeah.
With the show
That's
he did.
essentially his current tour.
his current tour, right?
Yeah.
And he's telling stories and all that. I even got the companion CD, Coco Dolenz at the Troubadour, signed by
She's
Coco.
lovely. She's
Yeah.
wonderful.
Mhm.
What a great thing to have his brother and sister working with each other on tour together, or she's recorded with him. And I mean, I don't know about them personally, but it's a beautiful thing to see them working together. Gail, could you go next and let us know about favorite songs you have or concert experiences?
Favorite songs that it's really hard to pick one. So I don't know that I can do that.
I'll give you a
But
top 100.
yeah, I'll narrow it down for you. Can I email you?
No pressure, no pressure.
Yeah, no, but you know, we can talk about concert experiences because I had a fairly long lapse in my fandom from the mid 80s to, you know, most of my adult life to like 2020, you know, when I started getting back into this stuff and realized that, you know, just about everything is on YouTube, everything's online, and it was like a kid in a candy store, you know,
Yeah.
going through all this stuff. And I when they I realized I had missed an opportunity to see Mike and Micky in concert in 2018 when they did that first round of shows. And so 2021, when things are opening back up, I said, I have to go see him. And so I bought tickets to the nearest show at the time was up in southern Wisconsin. So I went to see that show, and then they had opened up tickets, I think or vice versa, whatever. The night before was something in suburban Chicago. So I went to both and loved both. I was just so impressed. It was such a great show, such a great selection of tunes. I think the band does a tremendous job at making the song sound authentic to their time period, but you know, but really nailing it contemporarily. So, and I had the good fortune of bumping into both Mike and Micky in the lobby of the hotel after the show, after one of them. So it was a great way to if my fandom had ended there, that would have been a great way to cap it off. But yeah, just lucky. But so I got to say hello to both, which was just really, really exciting. So that was you know, and then actually, sadly, Nez passed away about a month after that in late 2021. So, really bittersweet, but really, really affecting.
Yeah. Mark?
Well, I'll say I've seen the Monkees 3 separate times. One was 1987. I didn't see the 86 tour. And I'd have to look. I saw him sometime in the 90s. And then I saw him again after Davey passed away, and it was the other 3 in 2011, because I thought, wow, this finally is happening. Unfortunately, not with Davey, but separately, I've seen Micky when he put out his "I'm a Believer" autobiography. I have the date right here in my book, September 16th, 1993, and he was appearing at the Booksmith in San Francisco. It's a bookstore there, and I thought he was gone because I arrived really late and there was nobody there. And I was late and there was nobody there, but everybody had gotten their autographs and I guess we're done talking with him. And so he's still sitting there waiting for the last stragglers, me, to come in there. So, you know, I got him to sign the book and we talked for a few minutes. I don't know really what we talked about, but, you know, it was a thrill to meet face to face. Second time I met him face to face was when in 2012, right after Davey passed, he was at the Hollywood Autograph Show, and you know, everybody was saying, "Oh, I'm sorry about Davey," blah, blah. So I didn't say anything like that, just because I figured everybody's saying that. But you know, I went and talked to him again about something or other, and then the third time, I guess I did say meet him face to face was that concert in 2017 with the orchestra in Portland. And you know, I always, you know, if I didn't say it before, I always had this dream of being in an audience on a live recording that was commercially released. And I'm in the audience. You can't tell I'm there, but I know I was there. So, you know, because I didn't go, "Hey, it's Mark, I'm here in the audience." Anyway, so those are my kind of memories. Favorite songs, always, always, always Porpoise Song, Pleasant Valley Sunday. They're neck and neck for me.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
anyway.
Fred, can I go back to you for a second? Regards to the orchestra tour, was that recorded for an album
Which one?
when he performed with an orchestra?
The American mode? Yeah. Mark showed the album.
Yeah, that one was
Oh.
in Portland, but he unfortunately did not do Shorty Blackwell for Fred's sake. I'm not as big of a fan of the
What
song,
was the
I'll
name of the
admit.
album?
What's it called? Oh yeah, Out of Nowhere.
Oh,
Out of Nowhere. Okay, well,
Yeah.
Really good
that one.
record. Yeah, definitely.
That'd be great to hear.
mhm.
It's a great album. It's from a 7A, so it's easily attainable.
7A has done a tremendous job for
Yeah.
the Monkeys.
Oh, yeah.
It's been I mean, I thought Rhino was great. 7A has been tremendous. Annie, can I ask you about have you seen Micky in concert or the Monkeys in concert or?
Yeah, I've since 2022, I've seen Micky 5 times in concert, and I've met him several times. I wanted to go see Mike and Micky in 2021. But the show that I could go to that was by me was a casino show, and I was 19, so I could not get into it. And that was the only time in my life I ever thought about
No fake ID?
fake ID.
McLovin.
I didn't, but I was tempted. I really wanted
Gail,
to
you
go.
should have given her
Looking at
your
us.
fake ID.
Oh, yeah.
But
People seen a couple of miss her.
But
Okay.
I've seen Micky several times. I remember the first time I heard his voice on stage, I just was so blown away just by the power and how youthful he sounded. It was like shocking. But it was thrilling, and my favorite song is As We Go Along. I think he sounds so beautiful on that.
Very cool. And Daniel?
Oh gosh. Yeah.
I'll go after Daniel, yeah?
Okay.
Yeah,
Sounds good, man.
absolutely.
Thank you.
I'll go last.
I first saw the Monkees on my birthday in 1986 on that fabled 86 tour. And I finally got to see Nez 16 years to the day on that 2012 tour after Nez rejoined. And that was emotional. So many great experiences. I got to shoot the 2016 Pantages show for the Monkees. That was everything you've heard about that show is true. Everything was is a top 10 show for me. It really is. And I flew out, hung out with them, shot sound check, shot the show, took flew back to got back to LAX and flew back overnight because I had 3 gigs in Charlotte I had to do the next day. But man, it was worth it. Had dinner one time with Peter and Micky in Nashville. Seen them a whole bunch of times. I think I saw the Mike and Micky tour 4 times. Really, really good. The big one for me was Micky came to FabFest here in Charlotte 3 years ago, and John Tosco, who runs FabFest, said, "Daniel, you're going to interview Micky, right?" I was like, "Yeah, I think I have to." So being on stage with him was fun, and we threw stuff back and forth at each other. But he comes upstairs, he's about to, go on stage, and I hadn't seen him in a couple of years. And he recognized me from all the years I'd taken pictures of him. He walks over to me, he goes, "Oh, hey, man," and fist bumps me. And the 13-year-old me freaked the heck out. I said, "Oh my God." Like, you're trying to keep yourself together, but the fan in you is just going, "Well, what just happened?" And now I got to talk to him on stage? Crud. So yes, and shout out to Micky's band and John and Rich and all and Wayne and everybody and Coco who makes that band so awesome. But for me, I'll say Girl That I Knew Somewhere and the Porpoise Song. So on the 2021 tour, Micky did a solo piano version of the Porpoise Song, and that would open the second set. And that was a bunch of us got emotional at that.
That is beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Plastic, take it away.
Okay, I got to go back now. What happens is Micky Dolenz was the last one to leave the Monkees. The Monkees left him. He didn't leave the Monkees, right?
Right.
This is what I read. Peter Tork bought out his contract. Mike Nesmith bought out his contract. Then it was down to Davey and Micky, the last ones left. And then apparently Davey left and Micky was on his own and never left the Monkees. Now, in my mind, if I was Micky right then, I would have put out an album called Micky of the Monkees, right? And if that was in their catalog, he'd be getting royalties today from back then when they split, right? It's always been on my mind because I would have just put out an album, Mickey the Monkey.
That was
Mickey the
the
Monkey.
that was the joke in the industry that when the monkeys were down
Yeah,
to
anyway, let's get back to it. Now, All of Your Toys is a great song, right? I'm
Yep.
just saying, you got to pull out these obscure ones. Steam Engine, another great song. I spoke to Chip Douglas. I don't understand why they didn't release that song. And they waited till it was like the rarities, we'll put them out. These songs are unbelievable. Apples, Peaches, and Pears. There's another classic. That should have come out straight away. And then the other thing is, right, the Monkeys were like nothing before. I got to separate the Monkeys now from the Beatles because I'm sick of hearing about the Beatles. And when I mean that, people don't understand that the
The
Beatles,
Kellogg's jingle.
listen, the Beatles and the Monkeys, nothing to do with both of them. Nothing, completely different. Who has a, listen to this, right? Now, what happens is the Beatles came together naturally, right? They got together, they worked hard, and they formed themselves, and that's it. What band gets organised by two producers, 435 people turn up for auditions? They pick four, right? Apparently, Davey had the inbox seat because they'd already organised this show for him without anyone knowing. Mickey had an agent, and I even heard that when it came to giving the roles of the band, the guys were standing in front of the producers, and Davey tells his story, I think. And they go, we need a drummer, and the three guys stand back, and Mickey's standing, and they go, you're the drummer. And then he went for drum lessons, right? Right, then he went for drum lessons, which is true. And it's like, this is the difference between the Monkeys and the Beatles. First of all, no band has got a guy with a green hat playing guitar. That's the first thing. No one's got someone at the front, right? No one's got someone at the front that's a bit like Peter Noon from Herman's Hermits, right? And he doesn't sing English. He might have that English accent, but he's singing American pop songs. Okay, he did that before he joined the Monkeys. He did like Dream Girl, or maybe I'm Because I'm a Londoner, right? That was the English British, his accent in that period of time before he joined the Monkeys. But now he's singing American pop songs that are written by the greatest songwriters in the world. And these guys were entertaining. It's very hard to be an entertainer. These guys were multifaceted, right? They got up 6 a.m., went to the studio, had their makeup done. They're doing a TV show. Then they go at night, and then they're recording songs, right? And then they're going out to play live. The first one was there in Hawaii because the producers want to see if they bombed or not. And they went there and they were a success in a beauty pageant. And then they do like 200 tours and they're playing live. And you've seen the TV show where Mike goes, well, I'm about to go out there in front of 10,000 people. And if I'm faking it, how can I fake it in front of 10,000 people? Right? And what happens is they were a real band. They started off as a group of four. They had it together. They got it together. They were rehearsing right when the cameras were turned off. And they became a real band. And to be able to do what they did, no one has equaled what they did. They were just total entertainers. You got to understand that. They're the first time that a record company and a film studio, TV studio got together as an organised marketing plan to take on the world. And the first year they pulled in $20 million, right, in merchandise. Who knows that? They pulled in $20 million, and they were up for 2 Grammy Awards in 66 and in 67 for 2 of the songs. So, I mean, you're not, as I said, it's not just 4 people they just pull out of anywhere and it happens. They just had the chemistry and they were so great that they just gelled, and that was something that's never coming or happening again. And when you watch a TV show now in 2025, you appreciate the word. That's true entertainment.
Well, it's pretty amazing the fact that they were able to take these 4 guys, cast them as actors in the show, and then they could actually sing together, they could play together, they could make these records that will last forever, and that's just a pretty amazing thing.
Yeah, but here's another link that you don't know, right? Mickey was in a group called Mickey and the Not. What is it? Not
One-nighters.
whatever it was.
One-nighters.
Yeah,
Chris, it was
but what's
one
hey?
night.
Wait a minute. What's that other band he was in? I can't
Missing
think of it.
Links.
What's
Missing
the other
Links.
band he was in?
Missing
Fred.
links.
Missing
Who?
links. Missing
Yeah,
links.
now I want to explain that.
Yeah.
You see that he was in a band called the Missing Links that grew up to be a monkey. You see the link there? Like, do you see that? It was born to be. How do you go from Missing Links to become a monkey? That's unbelievable.
And I'm sure there's a monkey on Circus Boy too.
Well,
You know how they show
is
the
there a
picture? Wait a minute. You know how they show the picture how man evolves? You know, and you see him as a Neanderthal man, and he goes up like that. That's like Mickey. Missing link, monkey, superstar.
You should have one of those of Mickey, except that his hair gets bigger throughout the series of the show. So.
Exactly. Plastic, do you have any particular monkey songs or Micky Dolenz songs that you like in particular?
I got to tell you, they've got a vast catalogue of everything. But I got to say, as I said, on the first album, it was Tomorrow's Going to Be Another Day. I used to wear the vinyl out of that when I got someone to play it, right? And the thing, with all these songs, it's just like amazing. You listen to the albums now, and Mickey had such a unique voice, and he played guitar in Circus Boy, so he already had his grounding there. And as I said, 2 of them were musicians and 2 of them were actors, and they crossed over. The actors became musicians, and the musicians became actors.
Yeah.
That's just such a unique combination. They've said it, the producers. It's like catching lightning in a bottle. And that's what the Monkees are. These people are true superstars, and they need to be recognized for what they are.
Mhm.
And Micky Dolenz needs to be put in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And
Yes.
he needs to get all the accolades he can get, because the man's here. And you know what? Unfortunately, 3 of the members are gone. And that's why the world now have to embrace Mickey as much as they can, because not only does the world love Mickey, but to me, he was an inspiration to me in music, right? The biggest influences in my life, and I've written 2,500 songs, has been Boyce and Hart and Mike Nesmith. And I mean, look at Mickey. He writes a song, as Peter said, he'll have a go at something and it'll be really brilliant. And after that, who knows? But he does this song called Randy Scout Git, and they say you can't use that, right? Because it's got different connotations. He goes, we need an alternative title. And he turns around and goes, that's it, alternative title.
Fantastic. All right, cool. So, all right. So for me, I saw the Monkees in 1986 twice during the 20th reunion shows. I took my sister Joanne to see the show. It was pretty great. Because my older sister is the one that got me into the Monkees, and then I got my younger sister into the Monkees. That was pretty great. I've been very blessed to see the Monkees in every incarnation since 1986, except for the UK tour in 1997 with that included Nesmith.
Mhm.
And I've seen Mickey in concert a few times solo. His voice is just so incredible, and I just enjoy it so much. And I just love his way about him. He's still very childlike in many ways. And
Ed, I've got to say one thing before I go, because my phone's going to die. This
Okay.
podcast has been great. I had a laugh. We all had a laugh. But I'll say this. I think it was 86. Peter and Davey came in. They played in a place in St Kilda that was like a dive, right? And I waited till the end of the concert. And there was a program with Davey and Mickey's photo, Davey and Peter's photo, and a kangaroo on the front. I waited outside. They signed it for me. Davey came out and he was eating sultanas and walnuts. And while he was eating and signing, he goes, excuse me, I'm just eating these. And I said, yeah, no bother, like no problem. And I'm just saying, the Monkees are going to last forever. The Monkees songs are evergreen. And some of the greatest songs, they did it. And to me, it's a total entertainment package. And I just want to say, I grew up with the Monkees. That's just how it goes. Everyone grows up with their group. In 1964, I'm 6 years old. What did you want me to understand? They're screaming on the TV, the Beatles are here in Melbourne. I had no idea what's going on. And then comes 1967, right? I'm between the ages of 8 and 9, and that's it. I watch them on TV. And the great thing about the Monkees is when you saw the TV when you were 8 years old, you believe they were the Monkees. You believe they played the instruments. You believe they lived in a beach house. You believe they drove a monkey mobile. And you didn't know about the wrecking crew. You didn't know about nothing. And I said to my mother, I want to live in a beach house. I want a monkey mobile so I can go to the shopping centre. And I said, I want to play music when I grow up. And that's the truth. That's how believable they were. And if you know that songbook that says, play like the Monkees, have you seen that one?
Yeah.
Have you seen a songbook that says, play like the Monkees?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right, that's like a send-up of other people played on their albums, right, when I see that. It's like a joke. All right, I'm going to say, Brian, I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, I love you guys, all right?
We love
And
you
Ed, you're
too,
doing a
Plastic.
terrific job.
Everybody in my audience, go online, go to Google, go to YouTube, look up Plastic EP, all his interviews with various different artists and pop culture people, and his music with his band, the EPs, great stuff, great character, lots of fun, great guy, even better guy. Plastic, thank you for joining us.
I love the joke that what's his name, Mark and Charles did in Liverpool, where they go, don't send the songs, don't send the songs. It cracked me up. All right, just got to say, I got a new show, right? I got a new music show called Music Revolution. I've done one episode. It's coming out from Australia here in Melbourne. And I just want to say I've interviewed Arnie Cornfield, right? The godfather of Woodstock. All right, got to let you go. Love you guys. Bye.
Okay,
bye-bye.
Bye.
Cheers.
Very good to have him on here. Okay, so let me just get back to just do a little wrap up on my Micky Dolenz memories, and then I let you go around to everybody, and you all guys give you credits. Okay, thank you. So anyway, so I saw them in '86 twice. I saw them on mostly every tour after that, except for '97. Micky's just an incredible artist. I love him so much, and it makes me feel good to have that continue to this day. You know, it's nice, nice to have that. You know, and my favorite songs with Micky are Pauper's song. I love Pleasant Valley Sunday. So my two favorite Monkees songs, but I also love the later stuff. You know, when he did from the Pull It album, Heart and Soul, I think that's a great record. Should have been a huge hit record. I don't know why, but it's a great record. And I liked the record that they did in 2016 or 2015 when they
Good
put out
times.
stuff like
Really?
She Makes Me Laugh. She Makes Me Laugh. It's just so much fun. It's singing in character, and I can see who that person was that he was singing about in the way that he performs it. You know, so I love all that stuff. I recommend everybody going out and checking out Micky's solo stuff. He did an album called King of the Day. He does all these Carole King songs. He did an album called Remember, which I think were mostly Harry Nilsson songs, or some of them were.
Remember, yeah, it's a collection of things. That's a really interesting album. And one of the things I like, you know, we bring up the Beatles. That's where I think that one has the cover. Micky does Good Morning.
Good Morning.
Right? And when I first saw that, before I heard the song, I thought, wow, what an odd choice. How is he going to do that? But I think that's a tremendous version of that song. I might even like it a little bit better than the Beatles version. I don't know.
I definitely think it's better.
Yeah, but I think it's a really great arrangement, really great choice.
When I saw Micky in concert only a few months ago, he does Good Morning in concert, but he does the Beatles version of it. I guess because maybe he doesn't want to do something that's you know, it's people aren't normally going to hear. You know, they're not going to recognize. So he does the Beatles version. But remember, from Harry Nilsson, a great song by Harry Nilsson, he does a beautiful, beautiful version of that song. So
Right.
I would suggest you go out if you Spotify, if you do music on streaming, you don't have to pay, except for if you decide to pay for. I feel like I do Spotify commercials almost every episode, but you can stream everything that they've got going, and enjoy. But it's always great when you can buy the the actual CDs or albums or whatever, and support actual um, actual recordings. So anyway, I'm so glad we have this whole group together here to celebrate Mickey's 80th birthday, which is this coming Saturday. And what I'd like to do is ask everybody in the group to share their contact information, where people can find you, or where you can run away from, and if you have any books or things like that that you want to promote, please do that. So, Fred, will you kick us off on that, please?
Sure. First, my books right here. A Little Bit Me, A Little Bit You, The Monkeys from a fan's perspective. And my most recent book, A Little Bit Me, A Little Bit You 2, The Monkeys from International Fan Perspectives. Both books can be found on Amazon as both a print and Kindle. And if you would like to get autographed copies, you can get them at my website. Maybe that comes out. freddypop.wordpress.com. You could go there for signed copies of the books. But again, and also you get the books at some of these outlets, but mostly Amazon for the print and Kindle. And I'm trying to work on a new project, and as soon as I can, I'll try and give more details on that when possible. But anyway, it was great, guys. I had a great time with everybody. It's good to see everyone again. Got to see old faces, brand new faces too. So, and we wish have very happy birthday to Mickey. Have a good one, Mick.
Cool. Annie?
You can find me both at Magnolia Sims with an extra S on Twitter and Instagram, or Micky Dolenz Archive on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Threads.
Oh,
And,
yeah, and I can also be found on Facebook, X, and Instagram as well.
Very cool.
Yeah, and just wanted to say thank you so much for having me. It was a real honor and very nice to meet all of you. Talk to
It was
some
a real pleasure to meet
first
you,
time.
Annie.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. We'll have to have you on again.
Yeah, I'd love to. Thank you so
Cool.
much.
Yeah,
All
come
right,
back soon.
Mark?
Well, I showed one of the books. I'll show it again. Michael Ventrella and I wrote two books. One is long title, Looking for the Good Times, Examining the Monkees songs one by one. Or if you want to go into their solo years, the other one we wrote is headquartered a timeline of the Monkees solo years. I can't read it on the screen. And both of them have wonderful covers by the artist Scott Shaw, who actually helped design the Just Us album cover. And you can find me on Facebook. The books are available on Amazon or through Bear Manor Media. Let's see. You can see me on IMDb. You can see me on Wikipedia. And then I also host my own Fun Ideas podcast, and I've had many of the people surrounding me on that very show.
Cool. Okay, Gail?
I just like having fun being a fan, and I'm the one who's following all you guys on Instagram and Facebook and buying your books. So, but if yeah, no, I love 60s and 70s pop culture, so I'm on tons of sites on Facebook and Instagram following that stuff, and especially Dolenz Archive and Magnolia Sims. So
Very cool. And she's a prominent member of the Ed's Pop-O-Matic podcast, doing various different episodes with me, and I really appreciate your involvement, Gail. That's so great. And then we have Daniel
Ed. It's a
Coston.
pleasure.
Daniel, can you give us the whole rundown?
Oh dear.
Can you, we have about a half an hour left.
Well, I'll shout out Good Times as well. I got to watch that record kind of being built from the periphery through my friendship with Andrew and the Shooting the Monkeys tours, and I think it's one of the projects that made me want to be a producer, because I could watch that record get made and go, oh, you can do that. Okay, that's pretty cool. So yeah, I'm Daniel Coston. If you don't know me, I'm Daniel Coston. You can find me on Instagram,
Sure.
Daniel Coston Photos, Facebook, danielcoston.com. As mentioned, I produced a new album by The Circle. It came out last year. Out now, as of last weekend, I produced a reissue of the Becky's 1976 album with bonus tracks from my collection. I just got off the phone with all the surviving members of the band. We all did an interview together, and man, that was cool. So it's really nice that they're enjoying this, 50 years after this album was made. So there's a few other projects in the works. I'm actually planning a 3-volume release soon of interviews from my archives from the last 30 years. It's gonna be a big old book, drop all in one day. So stay tuned. And again, happy birthday, Micky. It's hard to verbalize what the Monkees has meant to me in my life and my experiences with them through the years. I will just say thank you. And thank you all for being a part of this.
Thank you, Daniel. Okay, and last but not least, my name is Ed Rising. My host, the Ed's Pop-O-Matic Podcast, a retro pop culture podcast where everything retro beats anew. I see I said it right this time. And you can find me on Facebook. You can look me up, Ed Rising, Rising. Check me out on YouTube. We have a YouTube page with all these podcasts on there. And you can find this podcast on Spotify and Apple Music and iHeart and other similar type places. And yeah, so this is a great amount of fun to be able to have met these friends and to talk about the Monkees, and especially Micky Dolenz as we celebrate his 80th birthday, and wish him well and health and happiness and continued good work and fun like that. So everybody have a good night, have a nice day, and thank you.
And keep
Thank you,
monkeying
Ed.
around.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.